Were you thinking after the harm you caused other people, it was karma that you just fell yourself
Yeah.
and did that to yourself?
Yeah, but it would always have to be in a way where it wasn't war related. Look at that, Sean. This is what I mean about everything. You just don't, but again, it's another big test from God. How are you going to get, because when I spoke to him, he said to me, you got out of everything else. You get out of this one. So when he was laughing at me in a kind of way, I was calling him back and he was saying, Sam, go on, you'll be all right. Don't worry.
And was that the turning point then? No more robbing drug dealers, no more taking drugs?
Yeah, Sean.
It
That,
wasn't the turning
no,
point.
it was
It
Sean.
was.
Yeah, that was. I'd been thinking about it like I always had done. I had a clean period because a week before the injury, I'd done my first ever rap drug course in prison, and they put me back on the wing, Sean, and tried to move me, and they got the CM and someone to try and talk to me funny, Sean, but I knocked a pair of them out, Sean. So when I had the accident in front of everyone as well, Sean, they when they moved me from the block to D wing, and that's where I had the accident. But they told the whole prison, look, he's dead. There's the bad man. Look, he's never getting up again now. And you know me, I got up and then I started showing off when I went back. I know, with them watching me all the time because my solicitor's not happy because the faulty bed or whatever. But that's another story, Sean. But yeah, month by month, first I was crawling. Then I was hopping, stretching. My fingers I've still ain't got no toes, are all stuck together. And I was waking up at R4 every morning, Sean, for the whole of last year. Always up, stretch, boom, boom. And then slowly but surely, I went on the yard one day and started doing burpees, and everyone was looking in stun. And I was giving it, yeah, still the great Yammy B. Still the great Yammy B. Still. None of you are ready for me. All that gas talk, all that nonsense thing that I was trying, but I wasn't believing it no more, Sean. But what I was doing, thought I was being clever by trying to wind them lot up. See? Sean, that, and God was saying to me at the same time, don't get boastful, Sam. I did all this for you. You hold it down. Stop showing and biting back all the time. But over the years, the 40 years with them in there, Sean, that's what it was. You did things to me, so I have to use my skills to bite back when other people just leave it and blah de blah de blah. The kind of things that happen, Sean, over them years is when I go up on the force to score something and they go, right, misery, come back down. I used to do things like that. Shut up, all of you. None of you could, like all that kind of. It went on for years, Sean.
You had dark energy coming out of you for years.
Yeah.
Do you think that religion anchored you to something wholesome?
No, I think I was always godly, Sean. I think I was always a deep, deep man. I'd done my own self-studies with Freud and Jung. I did all that myself to learn about what happened to me, and no help, all self-taught with everything, Sean. The truth was, Sean, is that my true self, is not the way that I portrayed. And I did it all in the worst kind of way to get the worst kind of good feedback kind of thing. And thought that was more important than me being a normal human being and not harming anyone, Sean. And then I worked it all out in intensive care.
So the chaos was a mask, and you can go back to the childhood abuse to see the origins of that.
Yeah, Sean. Yeah, I worked it all out and I realised that sometimes, Sean, it's not your fault. But when you know better, it is. In the beginning of time, we can honestly say, not your fault, Sam. But when you know right from wrong, there's a sense you get when you're burgling and robbing and frightening people, Sean, that I feel like I don't really. Anyone that ever said to me, don't hit me, I never touched them, Sean. Or if I hit anyone they didn't want to know, I wouldn't think. I've been beat up a couple of times. Not really beat up, but I didn't want to fight back because I was in the wrong. So I let them grab me and that kind of stuff. But really, I was happy because I still didn't have to give you the money, and still you're my friend and everything will be all right. I could go and get back more. So, I never took it to heart or whatever, because I looked at the way that I was, Sean. And even when I was a vegetable and they were saying, listen, you spinal, it's all over. It then never bothered me, Sean, because I knew, like everything else, is that the way that I am, I know that the first thing you've got to do is stand up. And once you stand up and you take one step, then that can become two. Where there's one, there's more, Sean. And I knew that, so I made it look much more easier than what it was, Sean. I'm still suffering now a little bit. But again, Sean, that made me understand my true character and God's purpose for me, and the way that I'm going to represent the Father and the Son in the latter part of my life, Sean.
Did the self-reflection come only after the breaking of the neck?
the deepness, because I've got another voice now, Shaun, when I read and stuff. It's more like this, very, very gentle and soft. So since the injury, I've got yeah when I'm around, and then there's another bit to me that talks to me, because you know the super ego, the ego and the id, and the way the different parts of the brain work, Shaun, and what bit leads to what, and how to make the right decision when you've got all the noise going on in your head. I always knew what was wrong and right, Shaun. I hated touching anyone, really. It's only because of the way I thought about myself and the people that I did things to. I always tried to say, well, I'll do something back for you, you know, Shaun. And that's the favourite saying: you either loved me or you felt sorry for me. So for whatever, Shaun, I have to admit that, not so much as being a bad man and trying to give it all that, Shaun. The truth is, Shaun, I was rather lucky as well, Shaun.
How does a kid who goes through the care homes and falls out the education system cross over to reading, the top levels of psychology?
Because the other side of me, Shaun, the deep side, the bit that I had as a little boy, and not really, when they used to do things to people, the people I used to hang around, I never used to like doing it, Shaun. I always used to feel that I didn't belong there, Shaun. It wasn't meant to be a path for me. It's just that I didn't plan on living, because of all the stuff I was doing. I didn't plan on living past 35, Shaun. So I made everything worse and worse and worse, so I could get as much in and get as much as I want before I died, because that's where I was going. My mentality wasn't completely right, Shaun, and the way that I felt about myself. But
did you have to self-educate before you started to read the more philosophical?
No, natural. Yeah, I knew that what he meant when you're reading stuff, Shaun. If it makes sense to you, and you can say, right, I got a funny feeling that means that and that, and then you read further down and it is exactly that, and you're thinking, well, I ain't got a degree, I ain't got a thing. But again, that was one of the reasons why they used to say in the Cates, Yammy knows. I know that you know. So you know that I know what you're really thinking and feeling, and what you're worried about, and what your concerns are, and the way that you are, Shaun. I had that naturally. So when you're down, I could pick you up. When you're up, I could make sure I bring you down a peg or two to score, and if I felt real guilty about myself, then I'll come out for you and do a bit of work for you.
How did you select and source your books?
Sorry, Shaun?
How did you select and source what to read?
No, I came across something, Shaun. So it was Freud, Jung, because Freud was the original teacher of Jung, and then in later times Bowlby as well. But I went back to the childhood thing with a Freud, and Freud more thinks there's a sexual element behind everything kind of thing, with his thinking, your mum, your dad, and things pass through your mind, but it's what you do with them when you get those kind of thoughts there, Shaun, whether you got the self-control to not do a bad thing that comes into your mind, and the difference between, and the wisdom to knowing the difference. So I had them things naturally, Shaun. So I could always have an excuse, but I was on the gear when I did that, but I wanted to be a raving lunatic, so I could escape from my true self, so I could use drugs as an excuse. But the truth was, Shaun, I was a stand-up comic. That's what the bottom line is, Shaun. I didn't have a bad bone in my body, Shaun, and I made it the way that I made it, and other people had to suffer because of me. And it's for those people that didn't do nothing to me in my early life that I made victims out of, people that didn't know me, and thinking it was all right to do so. And then for the youngsters, the youth and kids growing up, and the schools and that kind of thing, Shaun, I want them to know from early on that, I did it all wrong, and you don't need to take as long as I've taken to work it out. Because in the end, if you live that long, Shaun, if you live that long these days, because, a lot of that age group, they're going pretty early, or they're going for long periods in jail, you work it out from your first sentence. Because at some stage, if you live that long, you're going to want to change. So in the end, unless you're going to be a drug addict and a sorry soul and you haven't got the resilience and the motivation, or for those who are not on drugs, and you're going to need something else to do for your future, because all those guys that I worshipped and idolized and thought they were great, it wasn't true, Shaun. I liked them because I genuinely, what I saw, I thought it takes big character, and certain things I saw with my eyes, I was thinking I couldn't do that, but that's just one element of it. Not a lot of people can come to the Cat A's and serious places and survive, Shaun.
You've done over 40 years in institutions.
Yeah.
You've only been a free man for 3 months.
Yeah.
Do you have nightmares?
No, Shaun. I get up the same way. I start laughing because my energy's high when I wake up. I start trotting down the road and hopping and jumping. I bring the band out there, the little football I'm dodging between the cars with my feet, to grab more sensation back while the going's good. And I never think about anything from jail or anything, Shaun.
So you just described your daytime. But when we're asleep, it's like we almost don't have control, the mind just goes.
No, so I get tired early evening sometimes, like I did in jail, and that would be an excuse to go, my energy's not as high now, so that means I'm having a bad day. When in reality, it doesn't mean that. Every human being has to go through days and times during the day where they're not there as sharp as they were another time, yesterday or the day before, Shaun. But, just because you feel like that, it doesn't mean that you must upset the way you are by taking stuff. Because you and I both know that it changes my whole dynamics, my character, and I go back into Yammy B mode. And that's no good to me, Shaun.
What about flashbacks?
No, Shaun. No flashbacks. I look at everyone with fond memories with certain people. Some of the bad things I've done, I'm accountable for, Shaun. And but there's not a lot, considering I've done all that, there's not a lot of things that I lose sleep over, Shaun. To be honest, not considering everything in its totality by way of wickedness and inflicting unnecessary pain on, and I was the cause of this and cause of that, them kind of things, with me. And some people used to hate having me. If I wasn't on their side, there'd be, there were many times when some of the hardest killers that have ever walked the streets of England have said to me, you got all your friends, and you say, Yammy, come with me to the mosque, come to the church, it's on today. And then I turn up and everyone goes, oh, because they ever like me, or they know that I'm clever enough to have a master plan there to make sure that whoever's with me gets the upper hand, Shaun.
I felt institutionalization creeping in after 5 years. 40 plus years.
I've got the...
What habits have you carried forward into civilian life?
My certain thoughts, Shaun, the mindset on certain things, when I react, or I tell people more, like I call people miss in the street, like I'm talking to the education teacher, things like that, Shaun. I'll blurt out more than I should, and people are offended. Oh, what's he telling me that for? Like things like, you've just been toilet, and, my skills around. And when I get those warped feelings, when I think, what, and I don't get angry for long, Shaun. So then I work it out. I said, you're just wasting your time. Because my conditioning of the mind, so used to surviving and ducking and diving. Who's next? How am I going to block that? All irrelevant, unnecessary. So when it does come to me, Shaun, and it's all clogged up in there someday, Shaun, I have to go, well, what are you thinking about that for? It bears no relevance on today and where you're going. God's already given me a missus out of nothing. He's already kept me alive. He's already stopped me from being in a wheelchair for life, or even worse, dead. I missed so many bullets over the years where it hit everybody else and not me, Shaun. What have I got to grumble about? I accepted I was wrong. That's why the spirit stays young, Shaun. It's when you're in denial, when you're telling people, I didn't do it. No, they did. You've got to come to terms, Shaun, with what you've done. And that's how the heart moves forward. So I looked at it, wrong or rightly, Shaun, that you're not keeping me out. You don't want me out. You're not going to try and get me out. I'm not going to get out earlier because of my history. So I took it then, well, I'll do as I please behind the door then, and do the whole lot. And then, you lot pick up the pieces again. So I kept on going. They kept on going. And I thought, well, right to the end then, even when I died and I was a vegetable, the same thing. And they released me, Shaun, 5 days later. They got a raving ump with me. And on my final day in prison, I come down on the ones. I said, look, I was supposed to be out on Friday. Oh, we can't find the paperwork and blah, blah, blah. That's the kind of 40 years it's been. I offered them all out on the ones. to try and, make the youngsters think, yeah, look, Uncle Yammy, just to have even though I was acting again, I said, all of you downstairs, the final goal, Shaun, but with the spinal injury and everything, they're scared to jump on me. So I was laughing, and then the governor come, I said, I ain't banging up tonight. You've taken a piss out of me for 5 days, Shaun. And she said, all right, don't do anything. And then she signed the paperwork and they let me out 9 o'clock at night. And that was my final ever day in prison, Shaun. And that was how it ended, and that's how it's been for the 40 years with me and them, Shaun.
You see a lot of people in denial and also resentful for getting caught, and it eats them up.
Yeah.
But you've let all that go. You've just got this happy spirit. How do you maintain that now? I
don't know whether I'm missing a part of my brain or not, Shaun, but I move on pretty quickly from stuff and deal with what I'm alive. I'm happy today. So it's just the way my spirit is, Shaun. What eats them all up is the lifestyle of being someone out there when you're selling drugs, or you was getting the praise, and you was in love and you got relationship, you got kids. So when you go there, you let all that go, but they don't. They still want to hold on to the street life and blah, 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 blah. But it's no good, Shaun. They sit there and it makes them worse and worse, and they age quicker, and they're not nice people to be around. And they're not, they to the whole world, it might look like they've got money and, they've got prestige and they've got a reputation and all that. But really, it's killing them, Shaun. 2, 3 years away, 4 years away, 5 years away. But you need to remember what you're doing to the public and people, Shaun. That's what you need. They needed to all remember that, Shaun. And some do, but some struggle real bad, Shaun. And you can't blame everyone. I don't blame people for my start in life, but I blame myself for the rest of it after that, Shaun. Because I knew full well what I was doing. I knew that if I touched things or hanged around with this one and that one, the wrong crowd, I went to all the wrong places searching for love, Shaun. And you were never going to find love in those places, Shaun.
Have they tried to give you psychotherapy?
No, because they did it once and it ended up with me telling the psychotherapist what to do.
How did that, what did he say to you?
Because he was saying that my IQ was pretty high, and they give me some questions and answers, Shaun. And then I started asking the questions about, I see if you see like a chain with a bike, I said, you bike ride, do you? And then, yeah. Then we start talking about them. And then I started to ask her, then the question, she answered that. Then I answered another one she answered. And I thought, oh, good, I can get her life story then. And then it developed into that. And until she stopped it and said, no, hold on, Samson. You're not meant to be analysing me. I'm meant to be analysing you. I know. So I got it in the wrong context. But no, Shaun, I'll perfectly manage with God and get my answers from there. So,
do you get any government assistance?
No, licence is nearly finished now, Shaun. It'll be the first time I'm free in a few months with no licence left. Obviously, when the lockdown's finished, I've got my marriage coming up for my lovely, lovely wife who's been there all the time, Shaun, the last 3 or 4 years, and I've done absolutely nothing for her. And she's been tolerant and patient with my ways as well, especially as I'm a bit handicapped as well now, Shaun. And I, for hours on end, sometimes I'm lying there and I'm thinking about this prison and that. It leaves deep, deep, deep emotional scars on you, Shaun. You sometimes you're thinking about officers and things that happen, and you're thinking, what are you thinking? It's got no, and you're still laughing there on your bed and thinking it was funny, but it's not, Sam. You wasted your whole life. It cost you everything. You don't even know how to get from A to B. Some days you need help and support. But again, Shaun, God puts things in place because he knows that I wouldn't have made it, Shaun. If I was on my own now and nowhere to live and I wouldn't be able to make it, Shaun. I'm not domesticated. I don't know, and I don't like that feeling of being alone
Are you confident that you will continue to make it?
I've made it, Shaun. Whatever way it goes now until death, I won't be doing anything bad to anyone, Shaun. So you could strike me, kick me in the mouth, tell me that I'm a mug. I'll agree, Shaun. It doesn't mean anything. I've got to please God. I've got to please him, Shaun.
And what are the positive projects you're working on now?
Oh, the positive stuff. Oh, yeah, Shaun. Yeah, very interesting. My book, I've written a few extracts like I've shown you this morning. So I've gone to a few dates and places. I did that by way of pen and paper. Now I'm going to finish it off by way of dictaphone, which is much more easier to do like I'm doing today. It's talking rather than writing. Hopelessly Lost, really, which describes me, Shaun, because the only judge that ever let me go everybody else was asking for custody, Judge Goldstein, and he said to me, listen, I'm not listening to nobody today. You're hopelessly lost in the big wide world. I'm letting you out. And he passed away. Judge Goldstein at Snaresbrook Crown Court, the only man to give me a squeeze, Shaun. And I was asking for prison. But, and sure, I know. And Shaun, yes, that's going to be my book, and the play that I'm doing as well. I've got the notes written up. I've still got to put it together. And my spinal injury videos, the fitness, the way that I've done it, the inspiring of people out of darkness into the light. I've got a lot of projects coming out, and my Instagram is SamEnt7. It is what it is TV7, and then the YouTube channel that we've just put up that's not really started yet, but it's going to be there. It is what it is TV, which I'll touch on, you know, the radio plays, jail stories, fact and fiction, and like I said, the fitness videos, my talks to the youth as well, to make sure they fully understand what they're getting into and try and deter them from putting themselves and others through unnecessary pain, Shaun. And much more as well on that channel coming up. So hopefully come and look at me, and you know, I'll do the best I can for you.
People watching this, there's a description box below the video and the link to your YouTube channel and Instagram and everything are down there. I urge people to go over and subscribe and support your good work. With the plays, are you ever going to cast yourself as a singing prison officer?
No, Shaun, but this one I'm writing now is going to be quite funny. But I wouldn't mind. Yeah, I could do that because I'm good. I can do a good Frank Sinatra and Nat King Cole. I've done the karaoke to that, Shaun. So I like the deep voice things, and my spiritual readings, which I really love. Anything to do with insight, wisdom, and God, and that kind of thing, Shaun. But I've got a play started. I've got just to work out in what order I'm gonna do things first. Either the book or the play, or just keep going from one to the other like I always did, Shaun.
What's so funny about the play?
Because it's based in a real life prison setting after I was a vegetable, and I was in a disabled cell for a year, and I got talking to, for the first time in life, sex offenders or people on Rule 43 that was segregated off from us, but you could talk to them through the gate. And the equality, diversity, racialism, bent officers, staff getting off with inmates, bringing stuff in, arrests, and being different in prison, and, you know, being gay and trans and whatnot, and a different colour or different part of the world, the difference and the way that you're belittled and made to feel about yourself, and by the hierarchy in there, that, you know, some of the most simplest of jokes can ruin people's lives, Shaun. You know, by just cracking a joke with someone, all right, they're in prison, they've done something wrong, but, you know, so you get on top of their emotional issues, you know, there's a lot of laughter in mine, you know, but there's a lot of sadness as well, because and that's gonna be coming, Shaun. Yeah, the ingredients in there, and it's all real, done by me without any support again. So I'm just going to put it all together and see what I come up with, just so the public understand fully what's really going on in there, Shaun.
You took us on a mammoth journey today, Samson, and young people watching this are inspired, and, you know, there's been some ups and downs. We've gone from dark places to light place. What would you like to say in conclusion to the young people watching this, some of whom might be going through things you went through as a kid, or be tempted into the drugs, crime lifestyle?
Yeah. I will tell you, all the youngsters, that when you haven't got anybody, like I never had, and you know, you don't know where to turn to, and there's the loneliness and emptiness inside of you, and you're not sure what it is, Shaun. You can't work out what's missing and why you have to follow him and them to do more extreme things. You know, mothers are losing their children every day out there before they've even had a chance to live. I would like them to understand that the reality of it all is that you're going to regret what you're doing. And it's whether, you know, Shaun, you have to, from very, very early, don't let it escalate, because like you said, Shaun, you can become institutionalized. It's very different now, the system. You've got more opportunities to get educated and stuff like that, but at the moment we haven't got the staff, and these are difficult times. But you've got to think of the other side. You've got to know what people are going to feel when you act in certain situations. You've got to do that first. You've got to learn, which I didn't, which I knew, and I used to feel other people's pain and overlook it and just continue. The minute that you feel that you don't like it and that you're going to do it just because the big man saying to you, because that's what they do. They put their arms around you. They're the big drug dealers, all the things in the area. And they say, look, to be like me and to get where I've got to, you have to do this and do that, or you do that for me. And your name will be up there in bright lights one day. And they'll all be talking about you the way they spoke about me with the watches on, with that and with that. And that's if you actually get that far. Because you might not never make it to that far. Not a lot of people do. This percentage is very, very small that you're going to have the trappings of success from illegal activities and hope you're just going to ride off into the sunset. I'm still waiting for a happy ending to, some of the kids coming out and, not regretting and saying, oh, my life of crime paid off. I'm trying to find someone that I can say to, it worked out for him. And, the ones that should have died, all right, they lived a bit longer. But, Shaun, the best thing to do is, to not go through it, because they're not easy. It's not easy in there, Shaun. There's manipulation. They're going to snake you. All your aspirations and dreams about who you want to be like and all that, Shaun. It's not going to be what you think. And once you're at the top in the so-called game, then there's going to be others that want to take it off you, and you don't get a moment's peace. So either ends in jail, death, or both. And there's no peace at the end, for anyone. Anything that's never been addressed, you have to think about those issues till the day you die. Because I've got a backlog of stuff that I worry about, and I think, well, what he might not be happy. And then from 30 years ago, then people are probably not even alive now. But it never leaves you, because you want to lie there and think, oh, I'm at peace now with myself. Can't I just live a normal life? But with the things going on in your head about the stuff you've done, and you often wonder if there's going to be retributions, or whether God has a say in badness as well, and not everyone's going to be lucky and get through. So yeah, watch the podcast and I'll explain more.
Such a powerful message to finish this mammoth podcast on. I'm guessing this is approximately 4 hours, the longest podcast we've ever done in the history of the True Crime Podcast. Really grateful, Samson, that you spent so much time with us today. We've really come back from this lockdown with 2 huge stories, Darren G and now yours. Did you ever bump into any of the G family in prison?
I think I've been in Strangeways or one of the private jails or down the block with Danny. I think I've spoken to him, but I saw Darren the other day. He looked familiar to me. But yeah, I've heard from, I know a lot of Scousers, and a lot of them, and his name around that is up there. So before I met him, before I saw him, and before I think, and the way he carries himself, that I know for definite that everything he's been telling everyone, especially the fighting and screws, is 100% true, because there's some real stories going back, Shaun. So I know that.